Evening, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening to join us in our Master Plan Ad Hoc Committee meeting. May we please pause for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Again, welcome to our second Master Plan Ad Hoc Committee meeting this evening. Um, Begin by reading the statement and then introducing those who are with us this evening. This meeting is held in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. The news media have been notified and a copy of the agenda has been made available to the public. This meeting is open to the public, and the public is welcome to attend in person. All persons wishing to attend the meeting by virtual means may do so via YouTube, Sumter School District Board Meetings, and Sumter School District Facebook page. Vision. Sumter School District is committed to educating, empowering, and enriching the lives of all students to reach their full potential. Mission. Sumter School District is committed to providing a safe, nurturing, and high-quality educational environment that supports diversity and equips students for local and global success. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we have sitting with us for our committee meeting, yours truly, Sean Reagan, the chair of the Facilities Committee. To my right, we have Mr. Daniel Palumbo, Area 1, also chairs the Finance Committee. To my left, Mr. Matthew McLeod, who is a member of the Facilities Committee, and Area 6. We have Ms. Tara Johnson, who is Area 4, and she serves on the Finance Committee. We have with us tonight as well our subcommittee members who's joining us tonight, and Mr. Lamar Atkins is with us tonight. Thank you for being here with us. Mr. Ray Goodman is here tonight, and Mr. Lewis Tisdale is here tonight with us as well. We also have our administrative staff that is with us. Of course, our superintendent, Dr. William T. Wright, is with us tonight. Mr. Samuel Myers, Director of Operations, and our CFO, Ms. Shatika Spearman, is with us as well as Ms. Scott, Shante Scott, our administrative assistant, and also on a virtual platform tonight we have Mr. Zell. Okay. All right, Mr. Zell. All right. Again, thank you all for being here tonight. We have an agenda before us this evening, and we will follow it as outlined. And as we begin to move through our agenda, we have what we call 1.1, and I would like to now call this meeting to order at this time. Meeting is now called to order. Item 1.2, opening remarks. I have something that I want to read tonight in reference to this committee. So I'm going to take the liberty tonight to read this information just very briefly, and then we'll go into the committee meeting. As we continue working on ways to impact our school district, the Sumter School District, while creating a future pathway for premier facilities. I would like to mention to the Sumter School District Master Plan Ad Hoc Committee is one that is of an advisory capacity, that sits at an advisory capacity by the Sumter School District, that has been commissioned by the Sumter School District Board of Trustees to evaluate growth trends within the district and to make recommendations to the full board on the utilization of existing facilities and on other ways to address the needs associated with improvement with our Sumter School District facilities while ensuring financial responsibility and accountability. Our goal as a committee will be to encourage and support continuous improvement for the Sumter School District physical infrastructures, ensuring, once again, financial sustainability and an optimal learning environment that supports student success and well-being. The work of this committee will assist with the ability to monitor the effectiveness of facilities and financial strategies, identify areas of enhancement, and bring forth recommendations or recommended plans to meet evolving needs and challenges. Lastly, I want to mention to this committee tonight that I believe all of us recognize that this work that we have before us is going to take a step-by-step process. And certainly all of us can possibly agree that we cannot do this overnight. Again, once again, thank you all for being here, and now we can go to the agenda. And we're now at item 2.1, approval of the agenda. Upon consensus, the agenda will stand approved. Hearing no objections, the agenda is now approved. Item 3.3, consent agenda. These are the minutes from the October 25th, 2023 meeting, our first meeting that we had. It as well is approved upon consensus and without any objections, those minutes. Okay. We can get those forwarded to you. Did you state you sent? Okay. They're being sent to you now. Okay. Thank you. All right. Item 4. Item 4 at this time is 4.1, facilities observation. And tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have our superintendent who would share some information with us on this evening as it pertains to our facilities across the district. And so we have Dr. Wright, who will take over at this time as we, the committee, yield to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Reagan, and members of the Board of Trustees, most of whom are here tonight, as well as the committee members. Thank you, first of all, for allowing me this space and time to talk about something that is, quite frankly, near and dear to my heart, making sure that we have quality facilities for students and staff to facilitate learning in. So before I begin tonight, I'll tell you the last time I've been in an environment quite like this, I think I was interviewing to become the superintendent here, so it's a little surreal sitting here, but we'll get through it the best way we can. If we can go to the next slide, Ms. Scott, we'll get going. First of all, we have presentation materials that will be a part of this presentation that are for our purview. To my right in a seat that we can really look at after the meeting. I think it would probably be best to do that. We have maps of school locations, which include attendance zones that were provided by the county council. So shout out to them for helping us get those documents prepared. They will show you maps of every school in our district, where it's located prospectively. And of course, as we'll hear a little bit later on, many of the schools that we'll discuss tonight are what we would call, we prefer to use the term inner city schools. The second set of presentation materials you have in front of you, as well as you have been provided an electronic copy. We will work from that document a little bit tonight in just a couple of minutes. But that is a Sumter School District property assessment documents. They are basically snapshots that give general information only about the properties throughout the district. We will not touch on all of them other than in just a minute I'm going to give you some information that I'd actually like for you to jot down on your paper document, take home, because I think it'll be important for you to have and know as we move forward. That will deal with the age of the buildings as well as the number of students. So I'm going to give you a little homework while you're here. And then lastly, also to my right is the 2018 Facility Condition Assessment documents. They are facilities for the facilities that are going to be discussed this evening. While this information is somewhat outdated, it also, though, outlines issues and needs at that time, and then of significance for us, it also includes 2023 indices, which indicate significant needs increases for many of the schools we'll discuss. I'll take the liberty when we get over in there to talk a little bit about one specific school and some of the language that's used, because that'll help us when we're looking at those documents. So we got some homework kind of right now, and then if you all would allow me to, we'll have those documents available if you all want to look over some of the things that we're going to discuss momentarily. So before we get too deep, let's look at the Sumter School District property assessment documents. If each of you will take those documents, I'm going to give you some figures. I'd like for you to just jot them down wherever you see fit on the document. I think this information will be helpful to us for the work that we're about to undertake. So first and foremost, if you look at the schools, we'll just go right down the list. I will give you two numbers. I'm going to give you the age. Y'all check behind me to make sure my math is right. I was a pretty good math student. And then the second number will be the student enrollment of the school as of the first part of this week, I believe it was, when we got that information together. All right, first one is Alice Drive Elementary School. It is 69 years old. And there are currently 557 students at Alice Drive Elementary. All right. So that's going to be on this document. If you don't see one, there was not one. But if you see, right, they have not. Right, if it's not on there, then there was not one at that particular site.
So there's been no upgrade done to Alice Drive Elementary?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. As you see, like Croswell Drive a little further down has 1951 main, 2008 multi-purpose room added. All right. All right, we ready? Cherryville Elementary School, 57 years old, 479 students. Croswell Drive, 73 years old, 460 students. High Hills Elementary School, 50 years old, 440 students. Kingsbury Elementary School, 33 years old, 583 students. Lamira Elementary School, if you go by the cornerstone and a part of the school, it is 136 years old. If we're being conservative, it's 75 years old, and it has 375 students. Manchester Elementary, 71 years old, 393 students. Millwood Elementary, 75 years old, 672 students. Oakland Primary, 65 years old, 510 students. Pacala Springs Elementary, 33 years old, 665 students. R.E. Davis College Preparatory Academy, 69 years old, 250 students. Rafting Creek Elementary School, 67 years old, 136 students. Shaw Heights Elementary School, 33 years old, 421 students. Wilder Elementary School, 70 years old, 320 students. Willow Drive Elementary School, 75 years old, 548 students. Alice Drive Middle School, 64 years old, 774 students. Bates Middle School, 64 years old, 514 students. Chestnut Oaks Middle School, the baby of the group, 25 years old, 352 students. Ebenezer Middle School is 64 years old, houses 348 students. Furman Middle School, 62 years old, 657 students. Hillcrest Middle School, 64 years old, 380 students. The R.E. Davis numbers already gave, so is that elementary and middle split? Okay. So R.E. Davis College Prep on the middle side, 69 years old still, but there are 138 students on the middle school side. Crestwood High School is 28 years old. Let me say that again. Crestwood High School is 28 years old, and it has 1,069 students. Lakewood High School, 28 years old, 978 students. And Sumter High School is 41 years old and has 2,133 students. So we're just going to focus on the main buildings, the main schools. Of course, we all know we have an alternative school, and that building is fairly new and so forth and so on. All right, now let's go to the next slide. So let's talk about the facts. First and foremost, Sumter School District has a plethora of aging schools, many of which are beyond the normal life cycle for school buildings, which in most circles is 50 years. The National Center of Education Statistics states, though, after 40 years, a school building begins rapid deterioration, and after 60 years, most schools are considered to be abandoned. Now, we know life doesn't necessarily work by that, but just as a note, by the definition of the NCES, 15 of our 27 schools are in what they refer to as the abandoned category. So I want to be clear about that. Nationwide, 1/4 of our schools were built before 1950, 45% built between 1950 and 1969, 17% of the buildings that we use now built between 1970 and 1984, and then 10% of our current schools were built after 1985, and that's a nationwide thing. So the nationwide school average, according to this research, is 42 years. The average age in Sumter School District is 67 years. Then, of course, most of our buildings are at least mid-cycle. We have two, the last three buildings that were built that serve children in a traditional capacity. High schools, Crestwood and Lakewood, built in 1996, and Chestnut Oaks was built in 2000. Despite myth, inner city schools as well as rural schools are aging. So our aging problem does not just affect one group of schools or the other. It's all pervasive. And while Lamira Elementary, 1888, Will Drive, built in 1949, and Millwood are our oldest schools in operation, there are several which are a decade or less younger than Willow Drive and Millwood. And they're listed there. They are Alice Drive Elementary, Croswell Drive Elementary, Manchester, Oakland Primary, R.E. Davis College Preparatory Academy, Rafton Creek Elementary School, Wilder Elementary School, Alice Drive Middle, and Bates Middle. And all of these schools' construction dates are in the 1950s. All right? Next slide. Facts continue. So if we add buildings that were constructed in the 1960s to that equation, which would make them still 60 years old, certainly at the end of the expected life cycle, then we'd add 4 more schools to the mix. They are Hillcrest Middle, Furman Middle, and Ebenezer Middle. So of particular note, these 3 schools at one point, you all know this information as well as I do, originally served as high schools, which of course increases the usage rate for each in their inception. And then there's Cherryvale Elementary, which rounds out the 60s schools, if you will, that was built in 1967. Next slide. So, everybody always asks these questions. We'll try to put it in layman's terms. Whether the work involves combining schools where it makes sense or replacing existing facilities in standalone fashion, the work to do so needs to begin now. We're attempting to produce 21st century scholars in buildings that were built in the early to mid 20th century. Any efforts to fix these problems because of the uniqueness of our schools with the aforementioned sites should be about replacement as opposed to renovation because of structural and resource problems. And I listed some basic ones, but we got some structural things going on and everything. But antiquated plumbing, of course, gives us problems, antiquated HVAC, etc. While it is my belief that the district must engage in solutions to fixing the aforementioned schools, there should also be conversations over the next several years about the next layer. And I started to put this in red, ladies and gentlemen, but I want to remind us that Sumter High School, which is our largest facility, is 41 years old. It's built in 1983. Go ahead. So these suggestions, everybody wants to know what the superintendent thinks. You're going to get some stuff tonight, but I want to make sure that there's a disclaimer. These suggestions are merely a result of being asked by some members of the Board of Trustees to put together a hypothetical sketch of what could be. Much more involvement with stakeholders, including but not limited to city and county council members, state legislators, community leaders, civic organizations, and of course the staff and students we serve, is absolutely essential before developing a finished product.
Mr. Superintendent?
Yes.
Can you repeat that again in case we make sure in the public that this is just hypothetical?
I will be
That
more
no
than
ru-
happy to repeat that,
No
sir.
rumors get out when we talked about this.
I didn't even want to put this slide in there, but y'all asked
That's
for
what we
it. So,
wanted, but yeah, just
All
wanna
right.
make sure.
once again, this is a disclaimer. Ms. Scott, I should have got you to change that to red or something, maybe. These suggestions are merely, we are on YouTube, right? These suggestions are merely a result of being asked by some members of the Board of Trustees to put together a hypothetical sketch of what could be. Much more involvement with stakeholders, including but not limited to city and county council, state legislators, community leaders, civic organizations, and of course the staff and students we serve is absolutely essential before developing a finished product. All right? Here are some possibilities. When you look at schools, first of all, that's not on the slide. I'm going to say this part 2 first. When you look at possibilities, there are 2 ways you can look at it. You can build a standalone out away from everything and then reroute folks, or you can build combo schools, or you can build replacement schools. That's really the only way you build schools if your enrollment isn't increasing. If enrollment increases, then sometimes you can build, especially if it's out in the rural area, you can then build a standalone and maybe not have to change lines. But that's really the three ways that you replace school buildings. All right, so here we go. I'm going to say the word hypothetical over and over again, so get ready. Here's an example. Example number one. Bates Middle School and Wilder Elementary serve a combined total of 834 students. They are 64 and 70 years old, respectively. So they're in that window. A replacement school that serves both serves students in K through 8th grade might be a solution there. These schools are 1.2 miles apart, and again, this is merely hypothetical. If you all were in a church congregation, I'd ask you to repeat that after me. Number two, another suggestion. So these are our four oldest elementary schools minus Wilder. Lamira, 375 students. You all know that because we talked about that a few minutes ago. Croswell Drive has 460 students. Willow Drive, 548. Millwood, 672 students. They are all 70 years old plus and must be included in a plan as well. While combination schools may not be and typically are not the best option in these cases, replacements are certainly needed however they come best. And so all of these schools are in the city, relatively close in proximity in the grand scheme of things. However, and combinations might be feasible. So, keeping in mind, this is not on the slide either, but keeping in mind that these combinations would get us around 1,000 students based on numbers. Examples would be to combine Lamira and Millwood and combine Croswell Drive and Willow Drive. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is merely hypothetical and based on proximity and nothing else, because I do not want to be in the item tomorrow morning. Number three, Manchester Elementary. It is an isolated rural environment in southwestern Sumter County. We all know where it is. But the school is 71 years and counting. And somebody tell me how many students are at Manchester Elementary. 393 students. Thank you, sir. So that's 400 students that are tucked away, I'll use that term, in southwestern Sumter County. So as an example, a replacement school there might be a replacement school there. You got me? Based on proximity. Okay, next slide. So moving ahead, here are some of the things that I think would help us as we begin this process. Dr. Reagan referred to us just beginning, got a lot more work to do. So here's some of the things that I think are important. We, tonight, hopefully, have begun initial talks designed to identify some of the specifics. You have information. You have access to mapping if you want to look at that. You have information from the former study. I recommend tours of the targeted facilities by the committee. I think that's important for us to do, Dr. Reagan. I'd like to do that after school closes, to be honest with you, so we've got full access to the buildings. But just as soon as Memorial Day holiday gets complete, I think we can start that process so you guys can see what's going on in these 70-year-old plus buildings, because I think that's important. Stakeholder committee formation, I think that's absolutely necessary at some point, doesn't have to be right away, with a selection of members from each of those entities, the county council, city council, and board of trustees. Typically, when school districts start talking about building schools, new schools, replacement schools, and things of that nature. Now, let me be clear. Those decisions are ultimately decided on by our Board of Trustees. However, typically, because of the funding implications, stakeholder committees include members from county council and city council, as well as people that the Board of Trustees selects. They are generally very interesting committees because we get retired educators, we get much like yourself, we get people that are construction experts and things of that nature. And they form some very beautiful committees that can then get us to where we need to be. So you can call that a kind of a recommendation from me. There also needs to be very quickly an assessment of what funds will be available. That is crucial and necessary very early in the process, and the funding sources and how we get that information. And then as a side note, just wanted to inform us that other states, South Carolina is not one of these states, at least not yet, but I hope they will become one. But other states offer state-sponsored needs-based grant programs, which are typically tied into the lotteries, that allow districts to apply for funding to build schools. An example is Hosky Elementary School in North Carolina that I am proud to have been a part of. It is a $21 million facility that cost the taxpayers $6 million because of a $15 million state-sponsored need-based grant program. The application process, applied for and accepted. And the state of North Carolina does that all across the plate. I generally don't, so for those of you that don't know me well, I don't generally mention North Carolina, but in this case, I think it's an example of something that I would love to see the state of South Carolina do for districts like ours that can't afford to build 5 or 6 schools at one time. Okay? Next slide. So, as a closing statement for this presentation at least, I look forward to taking the next steps towards providing 21st century learning environments for all of our scholars. And if there are any questions or comments, I'll do my best at this time. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely agree. And what I wanted to do tonight is kind of set the 30,000 foot of here's what we got, here's the age, and here's the direction. But any realistic look into where you put schools, where you replace schools, has to include enrollment present and future. We even look at, when we're looking at average daily membership, so the enrollment of students throughout our district, when we start trying to project years in advance, exactly to your point, we look at birth rates, because that's the best indicator in the world of what's coming.
And for this county, birth rate's been going down the last 2 years.
That's correct. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's a great question, and I kind of want to follow on that.
Yes, sir.
So, what is your current level of service in elementary schools? That's kind of a benchmark of where you're headed.
How many students you're talking about total?
You serve in total in your elementary schools?
I got a ton of staff members here. Is that something we can get fairly quickly? I got a number in my head, Mr. Tisdale, but I'm on YouTube, so
As you
you're
get
okay.
that, maybe to follow on with that.
Yes, sir.
What is the current, kind of benchmark? What was it 5 years ago and 10 years ago?
Right.
I think that's important to know.
Okay. The 5 and 10 might take us a little bit more time to get, but we can get it to you. Yes, sir.
And this is probably ahead of the curve on this, I'm sure. And
You okay?
What you would do is do a fairly detailed comparison of what upgrading existing schools versus
Yes, sir.
new on-site or new fresh site.
Yes, sir. The challenge that we have here, and I'll try to keep this as non-engineering-ish as I can for now. when you start trying to renovate a building that's 40 or 50 years old, that's a little bit easier to do than one that's 70 or 75 years old. And that's kind of the challenge that we have here. In some cases, we may decide. That's what I've envisioned this committee and the stakeholder committee for. Which building does it make sense to renovate as opposed to replace? But most of the stuff that I've talked about tonight is, 65, 70, 75 years old. So, when you start trying to renovate, then you run into some structural as well as to be honest with you, we've got pretty severe, I guess I call them plumbing issues at every one of those because of things like cast iron piping, for instance. So yes, sir. Absolutely, absolutely. I think that we've talked a little bit about this, Mr. Chair. We're trying to figure out, I think the board's kind of toying whether or not we start completely over with another facility assessment or whether we kind of amend the one that we have, but somehow or another we need an updated facility assessment because if you look at these documents, you're going to see things in there like there's, at the end or close to the end of the life cycle in 2018. Well, it was close to the end in 2018. This is 6 years later, it's probably at the end. So how you address that is going to be a little bit different than a school that's midway. If you decide to expand, say for instance, a Kingsbury, that's 33 years old, I think I remember. That is something that could be done a little easier than trying to, start working on 1949 bills. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But thank you for that.
Two quick questions.
Okay. All righty.
Years ago, when I was a young man, I was on this board and we passed a bond referendum. And we did quite a bit of work in addition to building two high schools and the middle schools, the previous high schools, to renovate them for middle schools. So I'd really be curious to know what was done, because what I heard, initially was that we had no upgrades to those buildings, and I'm pretty sure we did during that time period.
Right.
I can go back through notes, but I'd like to know that. But, one of the criteria in that was also not only, I guess, numbers of students, but having a critical mass to offer some things in more the middle school and the high school grade.
Yes, sir.
If you got a higher critical mass, could you offer some course offerings that you might not have available in a smaller city? So, kind of with that said, the neck of Sumter County is a beast. It always has been. It always will be. And those kids, how far are those elementary kids traveling now? They're traveling to one of the smallest elementary schools as it is.
Right. So if you're talking about our three, I'll say it this way, because I guess I can get away with it. Our three most rural schools. So Manchester Elementary. If you're talking Rafton Creek and R.A. Davis, they're going to be probably some of the longer bus routes just because of, the way the maps are drawn and so forth. I don't know. We probably got an hour and a half, would you say? About an hour and a half, some kids at the beginning of the route, they get on at the beginning of the route.
This is a question nobody wants to ask, but since I don't have anything to say, I let you.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever considered just letting folks down in the neck? I mean, I can see some potential eventually for growth north, maybe. Down in Pinewood, we got a lot of energy, industry coming in on the south side of town, so there's some potential there, things will handle right, but the eastern part of Sumter County, the neck, so to speak, or the leg, or whatever you want to call it, has there been any consideration of just saying, hey, why don't you guys, we'll give you over to Florence School District or Clarendon School District, where you can help them build critical mass? I know we're trying to hold FTEs and all the stuff that goes with it, but just taking it at face value, if you could shorten their bus ride to 30 minutes and you could help a school, in those two places, get a critical mass, but maybe those kids, at the end of the day, we're trying to get kids the best education, not protect the district. Is that a possibility in this study to look at that?
Mr. Tisdale, go ahead. Yeah.
It's been done for years.
Yeah.
They have that.
We've done it, and when I was student supervisor, we allowed kids to Turbeville, and some even to, Clarendon.
So that is an
Clarendon.
option for
It
those
has
kids
been.
now, they could elect to do that?
Well, they had to
Yes.
apply
They had to
for it
apply
that
for
time, and it had to be approved.
But it's automatically approved.
This is pretty much automatic? It
Yes.
is- Okay, well, that answers one of those questions. And then the final thing, I would really like to know a lot more about the grant on the elementary school you mentioned in
Okay.
North Carolina.
Okay.
Was there something that made that unique?
No, sir. It is legislation that was passed around 2017, 2018, somewhere in that time frame, where any school district that was what they call a tier one, so the highest poverty districts, could apply for a needs-based grant. And originally, it came out that you could get up to $15 million per application. It is increased, I think, now to 40 million. But you apply if you are accepted. Now, there's a lot of work that goes into it. You got to have an architect named, and you got to be shovel ready, so to speak. But the State Department of Education, they call it Department of Public Instruction, they have the same thing. They approve it. They have a committee that reviews them, approves it, awards, 4 or 5 districts, whatever, based on the money they have every year. And then you have that money. There's matching requirements, typically at a rate of about 3 to 1. It is a very good deal.
So the
And-
trigger there was probably poverty more than anything else.
yes, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry
yes.
to cut you off.
right.
Because of the number of viewers that we have tonight, they would love to hear what we're saying. So as you're speaking, can you please turn your microphones on so that you can speak into the mic, because they're not able to hear what we're saying on YouTube.
My apologies.
I think you may be good, but
Okay,
everybody
all right.
else.
Okay.
Thank you.
But yes, sir. So 3 to 1 match is what we had there, and it has really changed the game, so to speak, in rural districts throughout North Carolina. So, yes, sir.
Mr. Superintendent,
Yes, sir.
and I like what you're bringing up, and stuff that's been kind of right on in.
Thank you, sir.
Right where I thought we were looking at. The other thing I want to kind of mention, of course, the growth, because the growth is moving out towards into the Area 1 district, which is next to the base, which all the subdivisions are getting built and all that type of stuff out there.
Right.
So I'm not saying we're looking to build a whole new school, but we have 3 schools. One of them, Oakland's in 1949. My suggestion, that also probably as an option to add to that, is with Shaw Heights and High Hills, which I've been into those buildings. Some of those buildings, a whole hallway is not getting used at all because we don't have the numbers. Is an option to actually close with Oakland and try to put additional construction onto Shaw Heights, or because we have all the land out there, Shaw Heights or High Hills, to expand on there, and we can actually, another way to merge and close Oakland, and we don't have to worry about that, and we can have updated facilities out there, which was going to be needed because it is expanding out there, is my suggestion, if we can have that.
Yes, sir. So what I really wanted to do tonight is just talk hypotheticals. We have, in my mind, a ton more conversation that we need to have about where the growth is. And if you notice, a lot of this stuff I talked about tonight doesn't say where that is, because the uniqueness of us, I learned this about 3 days after I took the job, is much of the wealth in this county, and you can call it whatever you want to, that is not at the base is inner city. And so that is unusual for most places. Most places develop the inner city early, and then subdivisions kind of spread out in the county, and so that generates generally school construction. If you look at the map, we rolled a map out, it's very clearly shows that most of our schools are within a short radius. We know that physically, but to really look at it on the map kind of brings it home even more. And so, but if we know that, exactly what you're saying, and I know subdivisions are going out that way, those are certainly conversations that need to be had down the road. But yes, sir. Thank you for that.
We have one of our board members, Mr. Zell, who has a question, and so we'll allow him at this time to.
All right.
What question he has. Mr. Zell? All right. Okay. All right. He wanted to make a suggestion that we speak into the microphone.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Okay.
All right.
Apologies for that.
No, absolutely.
It's
No
all right.
problem. No problem. Absolutely. Any other questions, or as it relates to the presentation this evening, any comments or questions at this time from the committee?
Mr. Chair, I did get the information from one of my amazing staff members. We are currently serving 7,045 children in pre-K 3 through 5. So that's all of elementary school children. 7,045.
And that's pre-K through 5?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Would it be possible to get digitally, there's no need in printing it, the media material that was presented tonight and the attendance zones and that just emailed?
Absolutely.
I'll be glad to share that. Yes,
I
sir.
appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Or give us a little time to digest it.
All right. All right. Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
So, Mr. Chair, Mr. Superintendent, probably the next step is so we get something on the schedule to actually have tours of specific buildings that we're looking at. Is that
That would be my thought, and you know, to your point, you know, as we have time and availability, we can certainly add the three, you know, the three schools right outside the base. I mean, I think the more the merrier, because if we see it, then we know kind of what we're working with. We are more than happy to show folks what we're working with, and then that way, you know, everybody can kind of see for themselves. And I just, because of testing and all of that, I just would really like to wait until school is out for the summer, if we can.
All right. I think that's a good suggestion. As the facilities committee, we've already begun that work.
That's right.
But I think that's going to be positive. But not only that, I feel like not just this committee, but since school is going to be out, we should load up a couple of buses and have them meet here at the district office and put it out in the community and ask them to join us, because in actuality, we don't have the funding to build new schools, so we're going to have to go by way of some type of bond referendum, as we've mentioned before in our previous meeting. And if that's the case, then who else needs to be on the bus except for our community members? They need to be there so they can help buy in to what we're trying to do here in the community. So if we could open up the tour to our community members, as well as the committee members, our board, and everybody else who would want to be a part, and city council, county, everybody who's involved, so that they can see the conditions of our facilities along with knowing the ages of them as well.
Yes, sir. We stand ready. We can get transportation in place and whatever we need to do. We're looking forward to that. We'll get it coordinated with Ms. Scott and Ms. Galloway, and we'll get that done.
And my suggestion is also, Mr. Superintendent, is actually when we come out and visit these schools with the principals, is to actually show us everything.
Sure.
Don't just show it. Show
Sure.
what's deteriorating, showing how old everything is, and so hopefully that will get the word out to the, you know, this is not something that you're not trying to hide something. Please
Sure. Yes,
show
sir.
it out.
Okay. All right.
Could I ask one other question? I apologize, and
You
this may
okay?
be a question for Ms. Spearman, is that right? All right, so last time we met in October, you had paid down your 8% bonded indebtedness that you use for facilities, but we're planning to max it back out again, I think I understood. Is it maxed out currently? You're at your full 8%?
No, I don't believe we are.
Where are you now?
I'd have to go back and see those financials and look at it again. I don't believe we are. I think that's what we had a bond attorney come in and explain where
Sure.
we were.
Oh, no, I
And
understand how it
don't
works
believe we were
completely,
maxed out
but
at that
I
point.
would just be curious to know maybe next time where
Okay.
you are, what that leaves you for your capital improvements.
See what we're working with to get going. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Superintendent, Ms. Bierman, do you remember what he cleared us for? I can't remember
I
at
would
the top
have
of my
to
head.
pull that again and see what that presentation was, but he
Yeah.
stands ready. He's a phone call away, so I can
Okay.
get those numbers and that information to you again.
Yeah, and that's without affecting tax base. He says that we can, that's just enough money that we can go out there.
That's just your local tax base.
Correct,
8%
just
lower
without
than the others.
increasing property taxes at that
You
point.
can exercise that without.
Correct, yeah, exactly.
All right. Any other questions, comments? I feel like we've moved to item number 5 already. By looking at 5.1 steps moving forward, I think we've shared those and they've been documented. Any further recommendations? Item 5.2 from any committee member tonight that you want to have taken back to our full board to be shared. As I mentioned before, we've already mentioned some of those that have been documented tonight based off of the presentation and the comments that have been shared. So any further recommendations at this time that we would like to add from the committee? All right. Hearing none. Let us go to item number 6. Item number 6, call for the closing remarks. I'm just going to express my appreciation for you all being here tonight, to the administrative staff, to Dr. Wright, and certainly to this committee for coming out and being a part and sharing your thoughts as well as comments. I certainly believe that it's going to take much work to get this done, and I believe that all of us around this table is excited about the work that we have to do to make this district one of a premier district. Okay? All right. Without any further comments at this time, item 6.2, the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.